Hi, thank you for tuning in. You are watching a special recording session on the sideline of the World Marketing Summit Malaysia 2013, and I'm very glad to be here because we're talking about all the Millennium Development Goals or MDG, but especially so for MDG 2, which is about universal primary education. One of the panelists in there is very great presentation, and I'm going to introduce to you now, Mr. William Quende. Thank you so much for making time. You actually is no stranger to Malaysia. I'm with the United Nations. You're posting in Manila. I've seen you covering Southeast Asia, and you've been here before. Also, in your current position as chairman and CEO of Agritech Group in Burkina Faso, you are also exporting things to Malaysia. Maybe through Singapore, there's a lot more. But I would like to go back all the way to the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, not just for universal primary education, but also about alleviating of poverty and extreme hunger, about equality and empowerment of women and all the other stuff. I would say that there's no greater area where all those are challenges, big challenges, as in Africa. Because I've been to Africa, and although when I was small, I'm always amazed. Africa is closer to Europe, where the Industrial Revolution and whatever else happened. But there's a lot more that maybe Southeast Asia has in terms of development as compared to Africa. So the Millennium Development Goals has to be achieved by 2015 with all these gaps having to be around. So can you please tell us the story of trying to achieve all these Millennium Development Goals, inclusive of the MDG 2, and the story from Burkina Faso? A lot of Malaysians, I myself identify with Ghana because my former channel had a presence there. But maybe a lot of Malaysians has not known about Burkina Faso. They might not even know how to pronounce the name of the capital, for example. I will gladly give you the opportunity to explain about Burkina Faso and the challenges to achieve the MDGs.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be in Malaysia, a country that I love.
Thank you.
Very nice. The people are very nice. Always had a nice experience visiting Malaysia and working in Malaysia. Burkina Faso actually used to be called Upper Volta. And a lot of people get confused with the name because Ghana used to be called Lower Volta, for example, and Burkina Faso is Upper Volta. So you can see Burkina Faso as the north of Ghana. Okay. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country which is surrounded by 6 other countries, Benin, Togo, Ivory Coast, Niger, Nigeria, and Ghana. Because it is landlocked, Burkina Faso has limited access to the sea. The land area is about 274,000 square kilometers, so it's not so small. And it only has 17 million people. Burkina Faso is now the second world prospect in gold. So it has a lot of gold mine now being developed by some of them by the majors. And it's very well known for exporting cottons, over 700,000 tons per year. Yes. And we hope that gold will go the cotton way. Okay. So Burkina Faso was colonized by France and has a strange story because it was during colonization divided 2 times because they were thinking whether the country will be viable or not. So between Ivory Coast and Niger. The capital is Ouagadougou.
Okay.
So to make it simple, we say Ouaga. Ouaga is a lot simpler to pronounce. And I was actually a bit worried when I read the MDG, the latest report. Mentioning that Sub-Saharan Africa and Burkina Faso at the heart of it might not achieve MDG 2 by 2015. I think during the presentation I went through some of the factors which could be the cause, and asking myself the question, why is it that in a region, Sub-Saharan Africa, where we have most of the world's fastest growing economy, fastest growing trade, explosion in foreign direct investment, we're finding ourselves in a situation where actually um, this has no repercussion. This has no effects. This does not transpire into development for the MDG, especially education, because everything comes from education, and all the other development goals link back to education. One of the factors that we have identified very early was energy. The country does not have energy, and this affects everything.
And like what, 3/4 live in rural areas outside urban centers?
Exactly. That's another important factor to mention, because it gives an idea of the social structure. Three quarters of the Burkinabe actually live in rural area and live from agriculture.
And there's no electricity grid to go to them.
Exactly, because you have such a big country. People living from agriculture don't live close to one another. They occupy the land in the country to do their agriculture. And if you're trying to develop a grid, if you're trying to set up a grid, you can face many challenges, because your grid will never be
Commercially viable.
Yeah, commercially viable. So we started to look at producing energy locally and promoting renewable energy. Burkina Faso has the highest level of sun radiation. So solar is a factor, but solar is only good during the day. So we're working with the farmer to make some biodiesel, oil-based biodiesel, to power the tractors and provide other services, because we believe that once we get to the point where we can produce energy, MDG services will start to develop. Health services, you will agree with me that you can create any hospital if you don't have power. The same goes for sanitation. In order to pump water, you need power.
And this is sub-Saharan. Anyway.
This is sub-Saharan. I say, in order to filter the water and to make it drinkable, you need power.
And you don't have rainforests to be cut down to make firewood.
No, we don't have rainforest, but the forest that we have is being destroyed at a very high speed, because there is no energy. As a consequence, people can't use cooking gas, they can't use electricity, so they use firewood. So energy is creating the ground for the situation of having stalled.
In short, what you're saying, without solving the gap of access to energy, definitely all the MDG targets cannot be met on time.
The energy targets cannot be met. I mean, I'm glad that a couple of years ago, before Rio, the UN Secretary General recognized the right for energy access to all. So the initiative called Sustainable Energy for All, C4All, has been initiated without actually being widely promoted. So we haven't seen any funding allocation or any concrete project, but at least the fact that sustainable energy for all, because energy needs to be sustainable. You bring one planet. Exactly. You want it to be sustainable, durable. So at least it is recognized. And I will link into the development of telecom. Okay. You see, Africa is becoming the second telecom connected continent. You know that. And that is also creating some challenge, because that could be an opportunity.
Okay. William, we have to go for the first commercial break, but once we are back, I'd like to tease the audience while they go for the break that you were trained in computer engineering. Yes. And luckily, I've recently been to Washington. I've looked at how majestic George Washington University is. But despite all that, you went back to Burkina Faso, chair, and now chief executive running Agritech, for example. So how do you use your expertise, your posting in Manila and every other places in the world to help coin all these ideas into a project or projects to bridge this gap? That is implementation issue, and we want to learn from that after the short break. I'm still here at the sideline of the World Marketing Summit Malaysia 2013, and this is where we use the power of marketing that has been hugely successful for the commercial world into the social arena to help bridge a lot of gaps, and we're framing it along the MDG goals. For today, I'm continuing this very intellectual and also insightful conversation on the implementation side, which is a challenge. We talked about energy in the first block, but now you are an example, educated in Dhaka all the way to America in Washington and other universities, and coming back with a computer engineering degree, for example, and now you're bridging all this. So if you can share with us, like Agritech and the project, and why you chose this way to bridge all the gap so that MDG goals can be met.
Yes, this is a question, right? A lot of people are wondering why did I went back to agriculture. Actually, the project started actually here in Asia. When I was posted in Manila and working in the region, I met some interesting people. A lot of them business people, business families from the Philippines, originally from China and from the US, and other experts, involved into the food industry. And they were teasing me. We had a think tank on sustainable development, nothing to do with agriculture at this point. It was just a sustainable development, and they were wondering why did they have to export all this food from Asia to Africa? While Africa has most of the available land, and Africa should be feeding Asia. So it started like this, and we went on to the next question, asking ourselves, why are we not able to grow that food in Africa and to feed the rest of the world? It is starting now, but why it was not possible? What were the challenges? Why it didn't happen? Why did Africa have to import food? And then we went on the ground and investigate, and we found out that yes, energy was the key. Most of the food produced is wasted. It's not even that there's no food. We're talking about a post-harvest loss of 60%. 60%? Yeah. So 60% of the effort and 60% of the investment made by farmers, remember these farmers are mostly poor, is lost. Due to the lack of energy. Because once you've produced, of course, you need to process, store, or move
it somewhere.
Or move it. And this is
all energy intensive.
All energy intensive. So that was one of the challenge, and the other challenge was knowledge. Now, IT is great for knowledge. I can pull information left and right. So I was able to pull people, some people with financial capability, a lot of them with a lot of brain. And going from a discussion from a think tank, we came up to a model saying, okay, if we solve the energy problem, then we will solve the food problem. Now we started Agritech with the objective of doing energy for food. Okay, so different level, production. We needed the diesel for the tractor. We needed the diesel to move the water. Right? And then for the agro-processing. So we decided, well, we'll start with an intercropping model. This is an area mostly dry, so we'll ask them to use energy crop to fence their plantations and divide the plantation because it also protects the soil. And then they produce both the food and the energy. So then we take the energy to optimize the food production. That's what we did. And we take the agricultural waste. We use the all biomass technology, which is very well known in Malaysia. This is what is used with the waste of palm. So we use the agricultural waste in this turbine, biomass turbine, and we produce the electricity to process.
But you had to introduce new ideas. You had to introduce maybe new crop that was not traditionally to the culture of the farmers there.
You are correct. We had to introduce new crops, and we are still introducing new crops. For example, in the cluster, we work with 6,000, 7,000 farmers. Cluster is 10,000 hectares. We have several clusters. Of course, we have to introduce new crops because we noticed that the most important effort has been directed to fertilization. So more fertilizer, more fertilizer, more fertilizers. On the seed sides, they did some effort, but the genetic was still not good. Actually, we think that the basic is also the seeds. We need to introduce the right variety. So that has been one of the challenges. And new ideas always create resistance, as you know.
Of course, introducing new things will have resistance, but even a few years back or a few decades back, when we want to introduce large-scale farming in Malaysia, the problem is about as the generation progress, the land title is split even more to the next generation, for example. So how would you do it in Africa, in Burkina Faso or any other countries in Africa? Because I'm sure the nomadic way of doing agriculture, for example, is still there. Same time, the contentiousness of who owns the land, because it might be tribal laws and rules. So how did you get past all this?
Well, two things. Education as first, and then discussion, open discussion. You need to bring all the stakeholders onto a table.
Okay.
This is what is called democracy.
Yes.
But of course, we have our own form of democracy, right?
Agreed, agreed.
Some people get more respect than
Yes.
others, which are the leaders, the tribal leaders, they get more respect. But this is our form of democracy.
Okay.
But there's a discussion. The discussion is possible. We discuss and we decide.
Okay.
When we decide, we will believe that this would be the best for the majority,
Okay.
and from that we implement,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and we believe that this is a process to address these challenges, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge because as you move toward implementation, you found that there's more to it.
Yes.
There's
As
it
you go
creates more
deeper,
problems, etc., etc. So, and then you need to have good planning. You get into planning because once you've made this decision, you need to do environmental impact studies. You need to know where you want to grow food, where you want to develop city, where you want to make roads.
Yes. So it's more than agriculture now. It's about the whole strategic planning for a country, for example.
That's exactly where we're getting.
Okay. I have to go for the last commercial break, but once we are back, maybe, I read on the internet, I have to check this with you, that you come from the great royal family, way up in Benin, for example, if I get that right. So maybe, and with your education, and you also do go down to the ground to meet farmers, you can bridge the grassroots in Africa and also the top policymakers, be it in government or royalties or whatever it is. So that we'll discuss after this, because I want to ask William to share with us one specific example, because in the hall, I saw portable lights, and that can make a huge difference to not only one student, but maybe one family or even one village. So that we'll discuss after this short break. Thank you. I'm still here on the sideline of World Marketing Summit Malaysia 2013, using marketing to make and do good for a better future for all of us. And William, we've discussed about many things. We've discussed about energy being the pillar to support all the MDG initiatives, especially in Africa. Then we move on to introducing new crops, strategic initiative, but maybe people will remember good stories. So if I can ask you to pick up good stories or a story from Burkina Faso, using all the things that we have discussed before, and I've seen in the hall how you show us a portable light, because at the end of the day, we need all stakeholders to come in. While we're waiting for self-empowerment, maybe I've heard how it's no longer CSR is about charity and corporate social responsibility only philanthropically, but also it's about empowerment. How can other stakeholders come in? And I saw this one portable light that can maybe make great change.
Exactly. You are correct. I mean, it's about empowerment. Empowerment is education, as well as motivation, transformation. And we were looking for practical way, to show that. And yes, also ways that will facilitate the life of the people in rural area, the students, but also the government, because believe it or not, they're also it's a problem for them not be able to deliver these services to
It's a learning process for them too.
Yes, exactly. So we created this initiative, which we call the Light of Knowledge, one student, one lamp, and which is a model of how things could be done in an integrated way, right? So you have a light which has a solar panel, which has some LED, high power LED, and a lithium battery inside, which a student can use to study night, and a similar device, more sophisticated, for the teacher, allowing him to use a tablet based on the solar equipment as well. Okay? So this shows how we can solve a problem that for the Ministry of Education, a problem for the rural community, a problem for us, because we also want to be able to provide learning material that people can study, guidelines. We do a lot of training.
And you have seen personally, I think, maybe an example of one young boy or one young girl who have changed their life because of this.
Absolutely. First, the children of the people who work in our farm, right? In the whole school, the director of the school came to tell me that since we started the project in the area, he has no parent who was not able to pay the education anymore. So that is one example. And that was before we introduced the lamp. As we're introducing the lamp, we are seeing the level of success in this area go near 100%. You see?
So that's a big leap, right?
That's a big leap, because the reason why the MDG report, the Secretary General says in the latest MDG report that we will not reach, is because we are at 56%. So you are going near completion, simply because you are giving them a motivation. They consider that now they have value, right? And they're able to learn beyond the hours of school. So that's what you call empowerment. Giving that light is giving them power.
But we can never see any of the MDG initiative in isolation. We cannot talk about poverty and not talk about education, for example. And I want to go, before we end this discussion, Africa, good growth now. You have even enlightened me that I was thinking about 8 to 10 on average, but you've told me about how your neighbor Ghana is at 14% growth, and that's a lot of growth. But we know there's conflict areas in Africa too. So if we are not careful, all this development can fuel more conflict, more high-tech conflict. They can now fight with better weapons, for example. So how would the other side, the cultural and value side, because we're now talking about impact investment. For example, a company in Wall Street should not just look at the bottom line, but look at what they can contribute to humanity. But these are nice wishes, but we know that implementation, sometimes it goes back to the individual or group of individuals and the values in them. So how do you see this moving forward?
Well, you're talking about impact investment. We believe we are a triple bottom line company, right? So return on investment for our shareholders, environment protection, because we are producing equipment, devices, technology that protects the environment, and third, social impact. We mentioned education and other impact. So this is the way to maintain social stability and peace. Because people say no peace, no justice, no justice, no peace. We believe that if the revenues are somehow shared with some equity, it will prevent the conflict.
And rather than this being the alternative way, shouldn't this be the mainstream way for all cooperation in the world for the 21st century?
The cooperation will get there. I believe most of the cooperation will get there because they will have benefits. See, if we provide 1 million lamp branded with any name, I gave Stadler earlier, this is 10 million people in the families who see the brand.
And it's directly facilitated.
Yeah. It's profitable for them. Second, the consumer will force them to do so, right? Because the consumer consider the money comes from them, therefore they have a say on how that money has to be spent, right?
And this discussion started with an idea discussed in Asia. So we would like to see more of this kind of collaboration and collaborative ideas. We've heard that also here. Thank you so much, William Kernde, for making time to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you for watching. This is a special recording on the sideline of World Marketing Summit Malaysia 2013. I'll see you in another episode very, very soon. Goodbye. Thank you.